course, thank you, Anna and Hershey, for the wonderful desserts. Brian does not need any kind of introduction. I think everyone has heard of him before. He's a principal at Altimeter Group. It's a research firm that's focusing on disruptive technology. He's a digital analyst, sociologist, and my favorite is a futurist, because I share that in common with him. He studied and influenced the effects of emerging technology on business, marketing, and culture. I'm very proud to call him a friend. I think he's one of the few analysts out there that actually gets it and offers a huge amount of value to businesses today. So with that, Brian, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. All right, well, good morning. Tim, by the way, I did not know you were in the Air Force. My father was an engineer in the Air Force. That's actually how he met my mother. So I'm going to apologize in advance. As a speaker, you're never supposed to come up and apologize, but I've been asked to do a video immediately following my presentation, so I'm going to walk out when I'm done. It's not because I don't want to be here, so you'll see me back in a little bit. All right, so look, I'm an analyst, and I'm also an aspiring anthropologist and sociologist in the digital realm. What does that mean? That means that I don't just report on the trends that are happening. I actually try to understand why we're changing as human beings and then try to make sense out of them so that I'm not reporting on what the industry is doing, I'm directing what the industry needs to do, or at least adding what I think it needs to do. And that's what I want to talk about today. I'm not going to share with you the top 10 ways to kill it on Facebook. I am not going to help you get more pins or retweets. But I am going to challenge you to think differently about what is actually the gift of social media. I call it a gift because it is an opportunity for us, as Tim said, to listen. And when we listen, you're supposed to feel something, like Anna said, empathy. And empathy is an emotion that should inspire you to do something better and greater than you're doing today. And as an analyst, I study how businesses are using social media, and I have to tell you that I'm underwhelmed. It's just the truth. And I know why. Because you have to deal with a whole bunch of politics and a whole bunch of culture issues and a whole bunch of talk about innovation, but not a lot of support to help you actually innovate. And so you're dealing with a lot of roadblocks, a lot of processes that just don't even support the very nature of social. And today, since it is an innovation day and we are in an innovation center, let's talk about innovation in us as human beings and the processes that we need to fight against and the things that we need to introduce. Not innovation in technology, because I can assure you, all day today, next week, the week after that, you will have your hands full of new technology to deal with. But if we don't take a step back and understand what this means for us, what this means to our customers, to the people that we're trying to reach, and what we can do on the inside in order to have a true impact on the outside, we're just going to keep running on a treadmill. We're going to keep reacting. We're going to keep getting frustrated. We're going to keep sending resumes out until we find that magical place that gets it. It doesn't exist. Just telling you. You have to create it. It's up to each and every one of us. Tim, I did not know you were going to say that listening was important, but I do like the fact that there was a baton here. We talk too much. We celebrate too much in social media. We don't take enough time to figure out why things don't work. We don't take enough time to better understand the true customer experience. Let me define customer experience for you. It is not CRM. It is not you responding to somebody on Twitter. It is the experience, the emotion that someone has as they try to do business with you. And that emotion either steers positive or it steers negative. And it's our job to steer it positive every step of the way. I'm not going to read that to you. It's just added for dramatic effect. This is an era of digital Darwinism. Digital Darwinism is when technology and society evolve. And it often happens faster than our ability to adapt. And this is that time, that momentous time in our careers where we actually have a chance to change everything, to reinvent how things are done, to break down that proverbial silo to actually start talking to people within the organization that we don't talk to today. in order to create a customer experience. A customer experience happens with or without you. Facebook is one part of a customer-facing experience. Think about it as a journey. I interact with you on a website. I interact with you on Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is. I call a call center. I send some emails. Every single one of those aspects shapes my customer experience. Yet not one of those groups talk to one another. And that's a problem. And this is why, in our lifetime, we're watching some of the most dramatic falls from grace in business. No brand is safe. No business is safe, nor should it be. No business is too big to fail, and just like that, no business is too small to succeed. Where did Uber come from? Where did Airbnb come from? Everything can be disrupted because it should be disrupted. It's called creative destruction. I can't tell you the last time I went to someone and said, you know, that taxi cab I took in New York City was the best experience I've ever had. But I do rave about Uber. But just think about it. How many brands, how many businesses that have come and gone in your lifetime, many more businesses that have gone. We were the last generation to know the Kodak moment, right? Now the Kodak moment, hopefully I don't offend anybody, but the Kodak moment is now what you say when you're trying to do, or you're trying to say what not to do, right? And that's a problem. And unfortunately, you have to compete, not for the moment, but for the future. And in order to compete for the future, you have to break through things that are, well, we're in the black right now. Why would we need to change anything? And that's where our work begins. I tried to attend, I was going to go to law school when I was in college. I don't know what movie I saw that probably inspired that, but that didn't happen. However, I find myself acting like a lawyer these days and also like a politician in building the case, gathering evidence, and trying to, what's going on over here? Trying to get people to understand that it's not the world as you see it. You have to speak the language of the C-suite, and you have to communicate to them in the way that they see the world, right? Because they don't use Twitter. They still think Facebook is going to follow MySpace. This stuff is all a fad. We are going back to rotary phones. That's what they believe. But the reality is that technology, innovation, disruption, it's only accelerating. And I think we place too much emphasis on technology. We get real caught up in Facebook. Then we get real caught up in having an editorial calendar. And then we get caught up in tracking those metrics for how many likes did we get? I don't know. It's not as many as we got the last time. Well, what went wrong? I don't know. Let's figure it out. Let's get some top 5 BuzzFeed-style headlines going. Let's get an infographic. It's all well and good, but you're competing for the moment. And what I'm asking you to do is compete for the future, compete for my attention, and create an experience. Technology is an enabler. It is a channel for which you can do something great and keep doing things great. But right now, we're taking all of this amazing technology, all of these platforms that allow for true interaction, very emotional platforms, by the way, and we're doing what we've always done. We're really still marketing at people. And we're really not integrating the experience. We're just taking these tools and we're just using them and stuffing them into the processes that have always existed, rather than trying to change the culture of our organization to represent what it is that these platforms offer us. So yeah, it's a hard job. Yes, it's going to be uncomfortable for the next 5 or 6 years. But if we don't do this, if we don't try to change things from the inside out, if we don't create a culture of innovation in our own firms, then who's going to do it? The grass is not greener, I'm here to say. You are competing for attention, so that's why we get caught up in a lot of this. It's very easy to do. But you're also competing for relevance. A lot of these businesses, a lot of these brands that are losing favor with customers are just because they're losing relevance, right? If you would have told executives at Blockbuster many, many years ago that there was going to be a company called Netflix, comes along, and you're not even going to watch those movies on a television, you're going to watch them on a small piece of glass that you can carry in your hand, they would say, you're nuts. No one's ever going to consume video that way. How many of you in this room have children? Wow, okay. That is the generation that disrupted everything. They don't even watch television. Everything is on their tablet, their laptop, or their phone. By the way, that conversation at Blockbuster happened. They were offered a chance to buy Netflix early on for pennies on the dollar. And they just didn't believe that consumer behavior was going to shift that fast. And it did. And that's okay. It's always going to happen. Now Amazon is in the content production business, right? Anything is possible. So this is why I believe that the way that we see the world and why we're here together today is to change how we see the world in order to change the world. How many of you have heard this famous quote by Henry Ford? If I would have asked customers what they want, they would have told me a faster horse. Just one person? So he never said that, actually. It's not Henry Ford's quote. And this is a quote that is put back in my face by executives all the time. Why would we need to listen to customers? Henry Ford didn't. Or the best, I love this one, Steve Jobs never listened to his customers. And then you have to stop. It's like, really? Did you just compare yourself to Steve Jobs? I mean, did that just happen right now? What he did say is that perspective helps you see things differently and should inspire you to do things differently. And that's the way that I believe that not just listening, but learning and observing the behavior of others allows you to see actually what Steve Jobs did. He didn't always innovate, right? He saw the mouse at Xerox PARC. He saw the idea of an OS at Xerox PARC. He just understood the pain that people had, and he was able to visualize it into something better. And that's what we need to do, because behavior is changing. This is why I spend a lot of my time studying anthropology and sociology, and also why kids insist on subjecting themselves to the torture of Ask FM. Any of you parents, by the way, who have young preteens or young teens, you should look at what's happening in that site. If we think Reddit is bad, Ask FM is horrible. But understanding these networks and the behavior within these networks, you start to understand what expectations look like. So every October, I host this conference called the Pivot Conference, of which Greg, thank you for gracing our stage last year. And we run research, and one of the best questions I love to ask brands are, do you know this connected customer? And they'll all say yes. And then you'll ask, well, have you studied them? Or have you asked them what it is that they want from you in all of these networks? And then the answer is like, well, no, because we know what they want. And that's part of the problem. Because our life experience allows us for years to make decisions based on our gut, what we felt to be the right thing, how we got here as professionals and as human beings. Yet, as you look between the yellow and the blue graphs, you can see that what people want and what we think what they want are in fact different. And so when you're putting money and investment in places, we're already doing it wrong. And it's because we tend to look at people in an automated fashion, in a scaled fashion. This is a funny little image from a friend of mine at a shop called Big in Germany. You can see that he's described two individuals that sound a lot alike. And this, by the way, is also added for dramatic effect. I don't really believe brands market this way, but some do. And when you start to see the comparisons between these two individuals and how you're going to design a social strategy or a technology strategy, whatever it's going to be, you realize that people are actually different. I'm pretty sure that the similarities are not that great. Shift happened. And it's understanding the shift in behavior that allows us, I think, to be more inspired, not just by our social strategies, but the products and services that we put around it. Customer experience is a journey. You're all customers. You're all the very people that you're trying to reach. As a speaker, coming up over the years, I used to watch other speakers get completely flustered and frustrated when they would look at their audiences and just see people looking at laptops. Or now it's tablets and phones. and they'd walk back into the green room and they'd say, oh, this is just ridiculous. No one's paying attention. We should make people turn off their phones. We should turn off the internet in there. I need some of this. And I would just laugh. I'd say, I want to see lit up foreheads. If you make eye contact with me, maybe I'm doing a good job, maybe I'm not. Because Generation C is a connected generation that's not bound by age, it's bound by lifestyle and behavior. You're going to share the experiences that you have. That's just what we do. That's why every single social network is an emotional network. You're not making observations like, this table is solid. Like, I love this table. I hate this table. It's always emotional. And to share experiences, you have to create experiences, right? As a brand, it's not just about this moment right now or to those in the overflow room. It's about everybody who's connected to us. As you're sharing experiences, people are following along, and they are part of that experience in real time. So you want to be amazing. We live in a time where everything is becoming human. Brands are trying to become human, and people are becoming brands, and they're creating these ecosystems around themselves where they're at the center of their own universe, creating what we call the lazy web, where no one goes and looks for information anymore. They ask for information to come to them. It's cool. It's easier that way. It's incredibly efficient. It's a human network that is fast, right? That's why I say news no longer breaks, it tweets. On average, Twitter is 22 minutes faster than any major news network. The ecosystem comes to you. So why do we make people come to us our way in the processes that have always existed? It starts there. People are always on. And they don't want to call a contact center. They don't even actually use their cell phones to call anyone. Why? Why should you? To them, this really is the best party ever. Who am I to argue with that? I can laugh because it's funny, because that's great. But I can also try to understand it and figure out how to be more engaging, how to be the thing that captures their attention on that screen, how to be part of Generation C rather than trying to be skeptical about it or trying to demean it. This, by the way, is a real app. It's called Text and Walk, and it is a lifesaver. Turns the camera on your phone so that you can do this. This is a great thing. I travel all the time. I wish half the people in the airport use this. All of these windows are windows into new worlds. And what I'm asking you to do is step back from your routine and understand how these windows are used and what the expectations are around them. So for example, I get caught up in a lot of debates about responsive design and whether or not we could take, for example, a website and port it to a mobile, which ports to a tablet, which ports to whatever the OS that's hosting that tablet, so that everything is sweet. But think about the native design of your tablet or your smartphone. Pinch and zoom and swipe. And the only time you really have to zoom on a website while you're on your smartphone is so that you can increase the hyperlink size so you can hit it with your finger. And that is not native. That is us pushing a process in an existing system onto people. Yet you and I don't use these products this way. And when I was inspired to write the book that 3M has so graciously handed out to you, it was an experiment to see, could you think completely out of the box and reinvent what a book could be? How would it be different? How would you engage someone who's online and connected all the time and still make them read something in print? And I studied UX and UI for a whole year before I was writing that book. It was an experiment to see if I could help reinvent the future of textbooks. And you'll notice as you turn the pages, first it's square, first it's incredibly colorful, there's a nav bar, there's all kinds of things, shorter bursts of information. It's all actually generated to work. And I had to change everything about how I write, how I design, in order to be relevant to a different type of customer. If I can do it with the book, you can do it with anything. And here's why. This is a 1-year-old baby. You've probably seen this video, but it was the thing that inspired me to write this book this way. because her father gives her an iPad, and she's pretty intuitive with it at 1. It's actually kind of scary. Then her father gives her a magazine. First thing she does is that. Gets frustrated and throws it aside. Her father makes an astute observation that a magazine is an iPad that doesn't work. It's going to be that way. And it was here that I was struck. I said, wow, I'm older than I look. So I remember what it was like to get up and have to change a knob, turn it to change a channel. I think I had ABC, NBC, CBS. There's so many choices back then. I've had to learn everything digital. I'm analog first. She is digital first. She actually has to learn what a magazine is all about. She's going to be part of the generation that will sit in the living room with you, pick up the remote control, and say, so who thought that putting 100 buttons on a brick was going to be a fantastic way to control this glass screen? And you're going to sit back and you're going to say, God, that thing was like the best thing that ever happened in my life. You just made total sense. And that's because what we're bringing to the decisions that we're making today about the future of marketing and brand engagement are the life experiences that are not in alignment with the life experiences of Generation C. And we have to change that. This is not about millennial marketing, by the way. This is just about behavior. Because once you start, I don't care if you're 65 or 42, whatever it is, once you start using a tablet and social networks and any app and wearing a Fitbit, you become part of the connected lifestyle and you start to exhibit behaviors that are not unlike millennials. And understanding that means that the decisions you make today have to consider that and how that journey unfolds. And so with the handful of minutes we have left, I want to walk you through what that journey looks like. Because right now, all of our businesses are structured around a funnel. This is why none of our customer-facing departments talk to one another. And therefore, we create, by default, a disjointed experience. We have multi- or omni-channel marketing. We try to take as many things and stuff them into as many possible channels with one-to-many types of mentalities. We walk customers through this flow where certain groups are responsible for that flow, when in fact, that flow doesn't work anymore, not for the connected customer. If you've ever read that book that was published in 1999 called The Clue Train Manifesto, it accurately predicted that markets would become conversations. But I'm going to ask you to think about, here we are in 2013, what are those conversations about today? They're about experiences. And so not only are markets conversations, markets are experiences. And therefore, your brand is the culmination of shared experiences in each one of these moments of truth. And this is how I break down the funnel. I'm going to walk us through, just got the 10-minute sign. We can do this. Google calls it the zero moment of truth. For those who have read it, it's a fun read. For those who haven't, it's free. It's at zeromomentoftruth.com. When there's a stimulus or there's an awareness, Google says that in that zero moment of truth, you're going to Google it, right? So with Generation C, this is always good for debate. I study social television behavior a lot. And everybody keeps calling this the second screen. This is the first screen, okay? This is how you have to think about the zero moment of truth now. So if I am considering something and I need to do research, how does it unfold on this? It's not going to be your website. 2 reasons. 1, they're still stuck in the 90s. 2, who are they written for? Not us as customers. They're written for the person who approved the project, who signs the checks. We didn't get enough buzzwords in there. We're not innovative or groundbreaking enough. We've got to get that in there. Where's paradigm shifting? We need that too. In the zero moment of truth, when the journey begins on the small screen, you start to find out that people are not Googling it because websites come back in that moment. They go into places like YouTube because it's easier. And they're not even putting keywords. They're putting full-blown questions into that search box because they want answers. And in that moment of truth, you can't SEO your way out of it. It's shared experiences that come back right then and there. I was shopping for a blender, and who knew that blenders are so expensive, number one? Two, that it's a religion. My goodness. People are either in the church of Bullet or Vitamix. But in that moment of truth, though, it was all just user-generated videos of how they made selections to figure out what blender to choose. I mean, think about it. How many of you have actually read a how-to or product manual in the book that comes with the product? Or how many of you have looked it up in YouTube? Okay, see? Exactly. I read, and then I get frustrated. And then I go to YouTube. But in that moment of truth, the point is that you have to now start channeling these experiences because they're going to come back, and they're coming back right now. And in the absence of YouTube videos, people are actually asking their friends, hey, I'm thinking about this, what should I do? And those answers are coming back based on experiences. So this is a world that we're not controlling right now, and we need to. You talk about advocacy or influencer relations, that's a powerful moment of truth right there for those shared experiences to come back. Because people rely on more sources than they've ever had before because they can. They're more connected. The more connected they are, the more informed they are. The more informed they are, the more empowered they become, the more demanding they are. I know that we have some folks from Procter & Gamble. You guys own the first and second moments of truth. I'm going to jump ahead because we only have a few minutes left. But in those moments of truth, where people see a real world and a virtual world as one, and I'm not just talking about Google Glass, although that looks kind of funny. This is the way that we see things. We're checking into places, we're talking to people in real time, we're scanning codes, we're getting information all the time in order to make a decision. In these moments of truth, you have to think about what is happening then so that you can create an infrastructure that is steering people to you, getting through that transaction because nothing is safe. And in this journey, which is continuous now, it's not a funnel, it doesn't just end and no one goes magically into loyalty land. They actually go through the whole process again to validate their decision. This is especially true for automobiles, this is true for makeup, this is true for insurance. People need to make sure that they made the right decision. So it is this ultimate moment of truth that I need you to think about. You have to create a world where shared experiences are seamless, from stimulus, how they click, how it unfolds on the screen, how they transact, how they share feedback with you, how they share feedback with one another. Because in the ultimate moment of truth, it is these shared experiences that start to affect all of the other moments of truth. An easy way to say it is that the ultimate moment of truth is the next person's zero moment of truth. And this is an opportunity for all of us to think about how we approach our work. Because the reality is, if you are spending millions of dollars on advertisements to create your brand, and they're not even seeing that, and they're seeing the shared experiences of your friends or their friends, their peers, or the authorities that they respect, that is your brand. And I call it the experience divide because there's your brand promise, what you say your brand is, right? Whatever aspiration it is or whatever emotion it's supposed to evoke. And then there's what people say. And they're often different. And sometimes it looks like this. This is just an airline that I ran through Twitter into Wordle, which takes the most often used words and makes them bigger. Not fancy stuff here. That is the brand of this airline. And I went to their website to make sure this is not how they're marketing themselves. I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt. And I ran their website through the same word cloud generator, and it was all about customers and experience and relationships. And you're kind of like, well, no. I'm kind of sure that's not the experience your customers are having, yet you're on Twitter and you're on Facebook and you're living this world that obviously is disconnected. It has to start there, and we have to reverse engineer it. Because innovation begins with the idea that you can improve something that may or may not be broken. And you actually have to be the person who brings groups that don't talk to one another together because you're all equally responsible for what that experience is and ultimately how that experience is shared. So in the 3 minutes I have, I'm going to show you this image which is entitled How Computers Are Born. And it's a visual metaphor for something that I want to leave you with. For a different generation of customers, you actually have to start everything over again. How can you build something new from products to services to a click path that is new and optimized for someone who is born digital? And I mean not just millennials or Generation Z behind them, I mean everyone who acts like millennials and Generation Z. And that's all of the connected generation, which is the only generation of customers that are growing. So as you leave here today, as you go throughout today, I want you to fill in this blank and keep filling it in every day and remind yourself that the work you're doing is more important than you think it is. You are actually changing how business is done, how people work together, and the experiences that people have. And someone has to be the conductor. Someone has to see the bigger picture. Someone has to assemble all these different pieces. Even if you don't know how to play the flute or the trombone or the violin, everybody is hearing this music, and right now it's a big mess. And somebody has to bring it together so that it doesn't just sound nice, but that it's inspiring. This is my last slide. It's not a gaffe. It's meant to be blank. This is my way of asking you to celebrate each other's successes, look at everybody else's case studies, but then walk away from it. Because your customer relationships are unique to your business, and that journey is unique to the behavior of your customers. And you have to start answering questions for yourself. This is a blank slate, and this is how the future of business is built. Thank you so much for your time.